Greetings, Otaku Faithful. Thank you for joining me again this week. Once again, it's Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief. And finally, after months of being on hiatus, I am proud to bring to you all the return of the Discussion of the Week video segment right here on Otaku Assemble. Weekly, as always, I'm here to bring you the latest in this week's Discussion of the Week video segment. Now, first and foremost, about the planned Discussion of the Week video, that topic being free will versus predetermination. That topic will be addressed in a later video. Don't worry, I haven't forgotten about it. It's just that one of my friends actually wants to guest star on that video, and so both he and I will tackle that video at a later time. However, I did get a personal message from Otaku Faithful I Own the Spire, and he gave me a very interesting topic, which is the one I'm going to tackle this week. Now, be forewarned, this topic might get a little heavy, might get a little deep, and if that's the case, this video might be a little long. But if you're clicked on it and you're watching it, then you can already see whatever the time on this thing's gonna be. So we'll just see how this goes. But this week's topic coming from I Own the Spire, and he asked, discuss what you think of humanity and human nature. Do you think humans are inherently good, inherently evil, or just products of how they were raised? How should humans generally treat each other? And do you think some human lives are more valuable than others, or are we all equal? So, first and foremost, another great topic, another multi-questionable topic, and I can see the potential for this discussion to segue into another topic probably towards the end of this video. So, like always, I'll tackle this question by question, give you all my thoughts on it, and we'll see where this whole thing goes. So, just to reiterate, discuss what you think of humanity and human nature. Do you think humans are inherently good, inherently evil, or just products of how they were raised? My belief is that of the latter, of the foremost mentioned latter. I think we are products of how we were raised. Plain and simple. I think for the most part, when you talk about when people are born, and when you see an adult and the way in which they think, the way in which they behave, the manner in which they speak, and their entire philosophy and belief system, I think is all rooted back to their influences and, quite frankly, their environments growing up. Now, you know, the funny thing about this topic, to be honest, this topic in this video couldn't have come at a particularly better time, because this week, just to vent a little bit, to, kind of open up to you all and just kind of express my feelings on the whole situation. This week was a very difficult week for me, and it was one of those situations where I had to sit back and I had to evaluate what all was going on around me. And because, going back into the topic, when you talk about how people are and how their influences growing up, their environment growing up, but also one of the most important things, past experiences, how that shapes a person's personality, their mentality, how it molds that person. Pretty much what was happening to me this week was one of those situations where when I sat back and I looked back at the situation, I saw how past experiences changed facets of my personality. And pretty much what I'm talking about is things such as fear, self-doubt, lack of confidence, lack of motivation, you know, all these negatives that have a tendency to weigh in on a person's on an individual's personality, on their mentality, on their emotions. You know, it was one of those situations where I had to look back and reevaluate all those things. And then it even got to the point where I noticed that in that area, I noticed I had become very cynical and very jaded. And when I tried to figure out why was it that part of the world, why was it that I was seeing that facet of the world in such a negative and pessimistic light, and then I went back and it was like, because this happened to me, because this happened to me, because this, and I noticed that was a very bad thing. And then I even had to start questioning, you know, the people I was around and the environment, the situation. Pretty much the point I'm trying to get at is those things do matter. You know, people aren't born to be a certain way. People aren't born to think or feel a certain way. All of these things weigh in on that. But then again, okay, this is so crazy because it really is like perfect timing. So what happened was I was feeling pretty down, and my outlook on things were not very bright because all of these things were weighing in on my mind. And this is actually going to segue into the second question, was how should humans generally treat each other? It's going to be kind of weird. Larry, how are you going to segue into that? This is how I'm going to do that. So what happened to me this week, and everything that was on my mind and everything that was plaguing my thoughts, all these things, you know, it made me feel very down, and it really made me feel like there was this bleak outlook on both the world and life in general. And then I got a package this very morning in the mail. Now, there's a story behind the package, which I won't really get into because it'll kind of take away from the overall topic and conversation. But what happened was, I had a conversation with my sister. It was over coffee cups, you know, very small, minute thing. And so my sister took it upon herself to get me a coffee cup. But she didn't understand the significance of that cup, nor did I understand what would happen when I saw it. And pretty much this was the coffee cup. And anybody who has seen any of my some of my previous videos, but also any of my live streams when I talked about this character and his influences on my life, you'll immediately get it when you see the cup. This was the cup she got me. A Superman coffee mug. And I told my sister, when I saw this mug, when I saw this emblem, when I opened up that package, I shit you not, I literally broke down in tears. And when I tried to explain to my sister, because she doesn't understand the significance of this character, what and how this character has influenced my life and shaped my life. And so pretty much you guys are probably thinking, Larry, where the fuck are you going with this? Because you went from talking about humanity and human nature and how all these things can influence people and how you had this fucked up situation earlier this week, and now you're talking about a Superman coffee cup. Where the fuck are you going with this? Here's the thing. Because the situation that happened with me before had created this cynical and jaded outlook on life and on people, on the world and life in general. And That's a perfect example of how influences and past experiences and whatnot can influence who a person is. When I saw this coffee cup, it brought everything back to center, and it grounded me again, and it reminded me, it's like, hey man, the world's not what you think it is. People are not who you think they are. And whatever pitfall you're experiencing, all these past experiences and things that you think have molded you into a cynical or jaded person, they don't exist. What you're feeling, those are emotions of, pain, sorrow, anger, fear, frustration, self-doubt. All those things are weighing into you. But once again, Superman, what this character represents and how the big influence this character played on my life growing up, it brought me back to center. And it made me all grounded again. And it reminded me, especially when you talk about, human nature and that type of thing, to always see the good in people, to always hold out for the good in people, to see the best in mankind when there are so many examples out there that would make you think otherwise. No, it's still there. You lose sight of it sometimes. We all lose perspective on things when life gets hard and challenging and difficult. But when that happens, remember, no, it doesn't have to be like that. And in a lot of ways, you have the ability to influence those things. You have the ability to change those things. Hell, if you can't change the world, you can change yourself. And you can influence those around you. It's possible. There's a quote. Funny thing, the quote comes from The Departed, and it comes from one of the antagonistic characters of that film. But I love the quote. The quote is, "I don't want to be a product of my environment. I want my environment to be a product of me." And all of that implies. So pretty much to segue into the next question, how should humans generally treat each other? It goes back to Superman. Goes back to that. We should see the best in people at all times. And hey, even when they give us enough reason not to, we should still hold out hope that people can change. And hell, not granted, this goes back to, the whole turn the other cheek bit. And yeah, sometimes it's very difficult to do that, especially when people don't really give you reasons for doing so. It's really hard to turn the other cheek. But at the same time, everyone deserves at least one second chance. Yeah, maybe not a third and a fourth. I can perfectly understand if people don't want to do that. But everyone deserves a second chance. And people always deserve an opportunity to improve themselves, to change. I don't really think you should hold that against anybody or take that away from anybody. People do it. I understand that. It's a cold, hard fact of the world. But we shouldn't. You see what I'm saying? You should always see the best in people. You should always look for the best in people. Give people a second chance. We should forgive. Maybe not forget, but you should forgive. All these things that this character symbolizes and embodies, that's how we should treat people. We should treat others like we should want to be treated. You should be honest, forthcoming. You should be giving. You should be selfless, self-sacrificing. Give people the benefit of the doubt. And most importantly, we should defend those who can't defend themselves. We should stick up for one another when we see bullying, when we see discrimination, when we see persecution. That's what we should do. And And the thing is, you know, not granted on a large scale, that, you know, on a large scale, you can't really change the world, you know, unless it's from the effort of a collective whole. You see what I'm saying? Unless the masses themselves take it upon themselves to affect that type of change, you know, you can't. From that idea, it's just unrealistic. But the funny thing about it is, if one person decides to do that, then guess what? You might influence the next person, or you might even influence the person that you're helping. And so they'll want to return the favor. It's the whole pay it forward notion. One person can help three. Those three can help another three. Then those three help another three. And over time, you amass this huge network of people who are just genuinely and legitimately trying to help and better his fellow man. And that's all it takes. It just takes one. It just takes one. For one to influence three, and for each one of them to just influence another three. That's all it takes. And after a while, the collective whole, as a people, we will rise up and better ourselves. Because it does take, it just takes the effort of one, but over time, the effects of the whole, the efforts of the whole will affect the world. One of my favorite quotes, one finger can't move a pebble, can't pick up a pebble, but one hand can move the earth. That's real shit. One finger can't pick up a pebble, but one hand can move the earth. Think about it. Think about it. And now finally, to wrap this video up, and do you think some human lives are more valuable than others, or are we all equal? First and foremost, the only human life that I instinctively value, when you're talking about a differentiation between, you know, talking about the value of a human life, the only human lives that I instinctively value, put above any other, is those of children, because they're young, they're impressionable, and they still have a long life to live, you know. So generally, I value the life of a child over the life of an adult or over the life of an elder. When you talk about human life that I actually treasure, it's the life of infants and children. But when you're talking about whether or not valuing the life of, you know, people on the same footing, so two adults or two elders, no. At that point, I think, for the most part, there is an even, when it's even like that, you know, there is an even playing field. The scales do even out. But then a second question comes into play. And at that point, it's no longer about how I value two people or two lives that at face value are even. It's about how each individual value their lives. And it kind of segues into another topic, which I just want to touch on briefly, and that is the whole meaning of life. You know, when you talk about the value of life, the meaning of life, and quite honestly, I think that is completely and wholeheartedly, absolutely defined by that individual. What is the value of your life? How do you value it? What does it mean to you? And, you know, a lot of times, honestly, I don't think people ask that to themselves enough, because one one of the misfortunate things is that I see a lot of people, and I know a lot of people who, quite frankly, from my perspective, not theirs, from mine, I don't think they live up to their potential. Or there are things that they take for granted, that they don't appreciate. But once again, at the end of the day, what I think doesn't matter. It's what they think of themselves. Now, of course, you know, I can chime in, I can give my advice, I can give my thoughts on what I think. But even if that's the case, you know, if I see something in a friend, if I think they're not living up to their potential, I can only give them my advice. They still have to see that within themselves. They have to see what I see in them. And if they don't, then they won't be able to affect that change within themselves. It has to start with that individual. Funny, there was actually there's a story. One of my friends, and he watches my videos from time to time, and if he's watching this, I won't say a name, but he knows. If he's watching this, he'll know that I'm talking about him when I'm sharing the story. But a couple of years ago, we were roommates, and he was really depressed. He was really depressed, and he tore himself down, and he let that thing hold him back for so long. And finally, granted, it wasn't as comfortable, and you know, it wasn't, you know, it wasn't exactly how I wanted it to be. Actually, I was very blunt. I was really blunt, brutal, and honest. And I told him that, I just told him straight up, you have it within you to change this. This depression that you're feeling, it's not a curse that has been placed on you. It's not something that is just inherently placed on you that you just have to deal with. You can actually take control of this situation. You have all this power to do that. And I told him all these things he had going for him. And he couldn't see it my way. And we had a huge falling out, and we didn't talk again for months. And then one day, he came to me, and it was a really cool gesture. He bought me a wall scroll. He brought me a Naruto wall scroll. And what happened was, you know, and you might think, oh, you know, it's just a Naruto wall scroll. Back then I was a huge fan, but no. It was a wall scroll with Minato, the fourth Hokage, on it. He knew, my friend knew that was my favorite character. And he knew that merchandise with that character was rare. So when he saw that wall scroll, he immediately knew, oh my God, Larry would love that fucking wall scroll. And I had seen it before, and I was like, oh my God, I want that wall scroll. So then when he got it for me, I was like, dude, are you fucking kidding me? I can't believe, especially after the falling out we had, I was like, dude, why would you do this for me? I can't fucking believe that you would do this for me. Why? Why would you do that? And he said straight up, it's like, because even though we had that falling out, I know what you told me was you meant well by it. And I had to take a step back, and I had to evaluate something. And I wanted to let you know, Larry, you helped me. What you said changed my perception on life, and you did that. And I can't tell you how much that meant to me. I can just make this gesture of buying a wall scroll I knew you would really like. And you know what the funny thing is? That happened damn near 4 years ago. And he is in the best place he's ever been before in his fucking life. And I'm trying not to tear up on camera, but I can't explain to you all how the change in him, how much that meant to me. It's one thing for me to try to affect that type of change in a friend. It's another for that friend to take it upon themselves to better themselves. You can't make this type of shit up. You can't. You can't make that type of shit up. And I'm proud as hell of that fucking dude for changing his life the way he did. And I hope he watches this fucking video, because if you're watching this video, dude, you the motherfucking truth. You the fucking truth. So pretty much, to wrap this video up, you know, when you talk about, you know, this whole thing about, is humankind an innate way? You know, can people change? How people treat each other? The value of one's life. It's not all fairy tale and make-believe. It actually does exist. And we all, at any point in time, can change this world for the better. Don't think ill of your fellow man, because it's not like that. We all, to go back to the coffee cup, we can all be Superman. We can all be Superman. And even if we don't achieve all of that, we can at least inspire to. You know, even if a person doesn't reach these goals and aspirations, just trying matters. Just attempting matters. You know, to quote my dad has this quote. He loves using it, and it's an old quote, probably cliche at this point. It's an old quote, but my dad always told me, shoot for the moon, and even if you don't make it, you'll land among the stars, and that's still a hell of a place to be. So I'm gonna leave it at that. I want to thank you all for joining me for another discussion of the week video segment. In the comments below, leave your suggestions for next week's discussion of the week video. Thumb up the one you want to see. That's the one I'll tackle next week. Q&A videos coming Saturday and Sunday. Keep an eye out for the OAW blog getting posted on Sunday. Don't forget about Totems Issue 1, now on sale. Links in the description box below. This has been Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief. I'm signing off, and until next time, peace.